Welcome to 6 Minutes. This is Jason Fulmore, SC Wrestle. Today I'm here with JJ Johnson, Michigan Grappler. How's it going, JJ?
It's doing great. I'm glad to be here. I think it's almost a year ago that we met down at the Super 32s last year. So glad to be on your program here.
Yeah, awesome. So I see your big calendar behind you. I hope it keeps you organized.
It's about as well as I can keep myself organized. Yeah.
All right. So we are obviously talking today about the Grappler Fall Classic that is for this year heading to South Carolina. But before we get to the South Carolina and the move to South Carolina, and I want to do a preview of the weights and things like that, just very briefly. But I want to give people who are from the Southeast who don't really know about the Grappler Fall Classic a little background information. So it started about 11 years ago?
Yeah. So this is the 11th annual. 2010 was the first one. It actually just started in a high school gym in Michigan. I think there were 350 kids. We just had the high school division in year one. Now, obviously, we have the girls, we have all the youth, the middle school. So it's grown slowly but surely over time, and we've been able to get Michigan kids because of the way our high school season we have with travel restrictions, and we can't really go outside of state too much. That was kind of the genesis of starting the tournament, is trying to bring the best kids from around the country to Michigan and give those guys those opportunities. So. This year is by far the biggest and toughest event we've had, and the southeastern part of the U.S. is bringing it. I know there's a ton coming from that region.
Yeah, and but we've actually had some presence up in Michigan. The kids have gone up to Michigan over the last few years to go to the tournament because it has kind of made like that level of preseason, classic that people want to be involved in. When did it kind of explode to kind of that level for you guys?
I would say probably in maybe the 5th or 6th year. So maybe like 5 years ago is when, there was like the Mark Hull, Fox Baldwin, Alex Marinelli was like a big draw.
Yeah.
Those guys to the tournament because they were all like top 5 in the country and they were at the same weight. So there was a lot of intrigue there. And, when the Florida guys really started coming, that was a huge bump too. And, Florida's had a ton of champs, the Lake Highland Prep guys and, the South Dade and stuff
right.
like that. So they've always had a bunch of finalists and champs. And obviously they're the defending Grappler Cup champs as well.
And I wanted to talk about the Grappler Cup. For those people who don't know, the Grappler Cup is a point system based upon where you're from. Is that right? For the team?
Yeah. So we started it last year, kind of just to tie in some sort of a team race. And we did it by state. So, we'll take the top 10 point scorers from each state and kind of make it a tournament format, just add up the points at the end of it and see which state had the best or the highest point total from their top 10 performers.
So tell me about if you're a Michigan guy and Florida comes up there and wins the cup, is that motivating you as a Michigan guy to say, we got to bring it back home?
Man, I would hope so. But I'll say this, we actually awarded it to Michigan last year.
Oh, okay.
Upon further review, we forgot to add one in there, and we got it right. So the cup is in Florida right now. So Coach Palazzo has that down at Lake Highland Prep, and they'll be back to defend it. So
got it. So you guys are making your way south. I think it's probably obviously because of COVID restrictions in Michigan.
Yep.
Is it hard to run or kind of coordinate everything from Michigan and move it to South Carolina?
So we're actually really lucky that we have the organization New Way right in our backyard here in Michigan. So they've run a few events and actually in Myrtle Beach at this convention center before. So they kind of did a lot of the back work as far as figuring out, how you can run tournaments in this environment. So they have everything down to a T. They've run maybe a dozen tournaments so far. So they're taking care of all of our COVID compliance and things like that. So that helps a ton. But as far as running the actual tournament, we're going to roll out some mats and wrestle. And that's the easy part.
That sounds good. We've had a couple of weeks. We've had our Super 32 early entry tournaments in Georgia and Florida and things like that. But I know people are really ready to get back on the mats and do those sorts of things. Have you guys had much up in Michigan as far as being able to get on the mats?
No, it was pretty much unspoken underground training that was going on for a while. Now that you can open up a little bit, but no tournaments in Michigan. They had the Indiana map.
Right, right.
Yeah, pretty good group of Michigan guys that were down at that. But no, we got to travel. We got to travel right now.
Yeah, I got you. I
Yeah.
got you. All right. So you alluded to the fact that you and I crossed paths about a year ago at Super
Yeah.
32, and we were sitting there as things were getting ready to get started, and kind of just really talking about the different things that were out there and the different brackets and some potential matchups and that sort of thing. So the first thing that kind of pops into my mind is you guys just dropped your pre-seeds.
Yep.
So how do the pre-seeds kind of, do you guys go off of kind of flow and the open mat and Willie and all those to kind of help you figure out what those pre-seeds should be?
Yeah, pretty much. The people that compile the national rankings, I'll trust them over myself, since they put out a ton of those versions. So yeah, that's the first one. You kind of look at the national rankings, any of the placing at the major national tournaments, state championships, and there's a ton of different states. So trying to see state finishes across state is a little tricky. So I did shoot it over to Willie Saylor to kind of, look it over, see.
He gave his blessing.
Yeah. So he had some suggestions, and I took those, and like I said, we just try to get it as close as we possibly can. There will be a lot of changes because registration's still open, and it's not like a one-step weigh-in. If you miss weight, or there's always last-minute weight changes and things like that. So those seeds will change a little bit by the end of the week.
Well, before we get to that, because I forgot to talk about it, was that one, if somebody is interested in watching it, it's televised on Track?
Yep, it'll be on Track Wrestling.
Okay, and two, you guys still have the old weights. So if you're watching from the Southeast and you're seeing 130, 135, and 140, those are Michigan weights. Those are so you guys have a little bit different weight classes than we do.
Yeah, so when everyone changed to the national weights, we stayed with the old ones, and we have votes between the Coaches Association every year. And I agree. I like those weights better. The only thing we did add was we added 98 down low. I think when the tournament started, those were like the junior freestyle weights. So they had 98, 105, 112 all the way up. I think it works out nice for the fall because a lot of those bigger guys are playing football.
Yeah.
And that's really the main difference with the national weights is that extra weight up top. So,
all right. So you're looking through the pre-seed, you're looking through the entry list, you're looking through everything. What's the weight class that you said, man, that's a weight class I've got to watch?
125. 125 is the one for me.
125. Okay. All right. And 125 has, Carlos Negretti from California, right?
Mm-hmm.
Vincent Santinello. I'm probably going to slaughter people's names from Jersey. But it has, you guys have Dylan Gilcher, who is pre-seeded fifth, right?
Yep.
So what is it about? Was it the depth at 125, the top end talent at 125, or kind of a combination of both those things?
Both. If you look down, from 6, 7, 8, 9, I think all those guys are 2-time state champs. And then, there's a number of state champs and state finalists that aren't even seeded. I want to say there's maybe 25 state finalists in the weight or somewhere in there,
wow.
Like half the weight or something like that. So it's ridiculous.
So we get to the round of 32 and we're going to see possibly champ versus champ, and some great action really early in the tournament.
Yeah, there's no easy path. That's for sure.
All right. Was it hard to pre-seed that one, or did it?
I thought so because there's some Michigan guys that aren't in the top 16 that are really good that I know, and trying to see where they'd slide. I mean, there's some bracket busters that aren't even in the top 16 there. So,
all right. Give me one bracket buster that it can be a Michigan guy. I just want to know.
I'll give you two there. Andrew Hampton and Ashton Anderson are two Michigan guys. They were second and third in the state last year.
Okay, I'm gonna have to write that down because whoever they pull first, second, third round, have to go and watch those matches because the top 16 better be ready for them.
Yeah, no doubt.
Awesome. All right, so 125, what was another weight class that you went? Man, damn, that's a good weight.
I like 145. I like the top end there, and then the top 4 or 5. That's Porter, Alec Martin, Garrison Dendy, and Killich from Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
4 like top 10, top 15 guys.
Yeah.
And Raglan there from Virginia too. So I thought that was a good one. 171 is another good one. When you start looking at the top 5 or 6.
Yeah. So 171 was pretty interesting to me because I just watched Matthew Singleton wrestle at 163. I don't know. Well, last weekend, 2 weekends ago, and he's registered at 171. So, and he and Gabe, they wrestle and practice a lot.
Yeah, I was wondering about that. The Georgia guys that we don't see a lot. I was not super sure on the history or the backstory with some of those matchups. So
yeah. Well, Gabe's up at Wyoming Seminary, but the two of them I've been watching videos of them working out for part of the summer. So, and if they end up meeting and and it ends up being anything like that, it'll be a barber. It'll be awesome. But you also got Rojas in there, right?
Yeah, Rojas is a total stud too from Michigan. So all 3 of those guys I think are top 10 in every poll. So
yeah, and Rojas I thought he was ranked at 182 at some weight classes, by some people. Is that right?
He wrestled 89 last year during the season, but he was essentially a 171. So Facundo was Division I 171 also last year. So going up to 89, but yeah, he's pretty much a 71 pounder.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Awesome. So we've got 25, 45, and 71. Which of the weight classes were you did you struggle the most with in trying to do your pre-seeds?
I think some of the lighter ones, like 105 was kind of tough because you got some incoming freshmen that are really tough, like Knox from New Jersey, and Marcello Milani is a kid from Michigan who he didn't wrestle the high school season last year, but he's nationally ranked.
Yeah.
So that's always kind of difficult just to see, because this kid was really good in middle school. Where does he fit in? And just trying to place the right value on where they're at the time. But I think those lighter ones are tough. And then, Vince Bazakis down there at 112, trying to figure out where he's at. And just because you don't want to put him too low. I think one year we had Carson Manville as like the 12 seed and he won the tournament. So when he was an 8th grader. So trying to get that one.
Well, and honestly, that's part of a real challenge. I was talking to Travis Gerard, and Travis and I were having a conversation as he was talking about doing the Super 32 early entry tournament, and he's like, the 105s, the 112s, they're so hard because you just don't know how it's going to translate to them wrestling against guys who are juniors or seniors in high school.
It's a little bit different now too, with no one's competed in, for the most part in 6-7 months. So, who knows where anyone's at really. I'm trying to on 6 months ago.
So we had, just so you know, we had Anthony Knox. I got to watch Anthony Knox wrestle a couple weekends ago because he was down in Georgia wrestling, and he looked fantastic. I don't know how he'll fare against Braden Davis and that level of competition, but I will tell you that the kids he wrestled down here were pretty good, and he looked fantastic. So
yeah, I did look back and watch some of his matches from Super 32 last year, and some of the other ones that I could find. So yeah, you're right. He's a hammer.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. So surprise weights or surprise wrestlers, something that kind of might jump out at you that you, just from a fan's perspective.
Yeah, I probably have the same question. I'm not sure. I'm curious to see the Ohio guys because they didn't have a state tournament. I think some of those guys will be flying under the radar. Mm-hmm. Maybe they're not on the scene because they didn't get a chance at their state tournament and no Fargo, and so and I know there's a couple of those guys that are in there. And then honestly, there's a lot of new faces that I'm not super familiar with down in your neck of the woods there, Georgia and North Carolina. Guys that have really good accolades that they're probably going to surprise me and be like, how was he not seated? He should have been way higher.
Well, and does that make it a real challenge for you because you haven't had a whole lot of wrestling over the last 6 months, 8 months? You don't really have a gauge?
Yeah, for sure. For sure it does. But like I said, at the end of the day, most of these weights, there's not really an easy path. You're going to have to win, 3 or 4 tough ones. So,
well, and you just recently got Nick Bozakis, who, because I guess he was, because Crookham was injured, he's not at who's number one. So he signed up and is now here. And that makes 135 a lot of fun. Because I know I've watched Tom Crook wrestle. I have not watched Davin Rhodes wrestle or Evan Holloway, Pearson Manville, obviously. So it'll be really interesting. Was that a surprise to see somebody come in at the last minute at that level?
Yes and no. When it happened, we actually reached out to him and just said, hey, just a reminder that this tourney's still going on here because he's won the tournament 3 times before. And no one's won it 4 times. So he's one of 3 that's won the high school 3 times. So if he were to win it this year, he'd be the first to win 4 in the high school division.
With the possibility of another one.
Yeah.
Because he's still only a junior.
I know, it's crazy. It's crazy. So it's Mark Hall and Zach Hall. Zach Hall is from Michigan. And obviously Mark Hall. That Mark Hall. And Nick, they've all won 3 of them.
So one of the last things that I want to talk about, because I try to keep it to about 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and I think I'm actually up as far as time goes. But did you guys still, I would assume you had maybe a bump in Southeast people who were registered. Did you lose any from the Midwest, or it still looks like Michigan and Ohio and all of them are still coming?
Yeah, I think Michigan and Ohio traveled really well. We usually get more Indiana guys, but they probably, went to the one in their own state there. So, I mean, it's a much easier trip, so I can't really knock them. We usually get a decent amount of Illinois and Wisconsin too.
And that's probably down a little bit.
Yeah. So, but like Georgia is bringing a ton, which we've never really had.
Right.
Many of those guys. And North Carolina and Virginia and South Carolina and obviously Florida. So super excited.
Well, we are super excited to have you down here. I am, because I now get to come to it as opposed to having to travel all the way to Michigan. Although there's nothing wrong. I love traveling to Michigan. Great craft beer up there. But so looking forward to seeing you guys. I'll see you on Friday. And Saturday the tournament gets started on Saturday, right?
Yeah, awesome. I'm looking forward to you coming down. Yeah, we're going to go Saturday through the quarters and the blood rounds. And then, the Elite Division semis will kick off first thing Saturday morning. And we're shooting for the noon final. So.
All right. So tune in. Noon final.
Yes, that's the plan.
All right. I appreciate it. Take care, man.
Thanks, Jason.